Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you a requested video on how to cut this asymmetric corset. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, to start, here is my pattern paper and I've marked my shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to waistline and top length. So for this part, I have about 7.5 inches after my waistline. So I left that because of the design at the lower part. I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2. I'll go down by 1 inch and I'll draw my shoulder slope. After that, I'll be marking my chest line, which is my bust circumference, divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to rule a line, place my tape and measure it. So at that point again, I'm going to go ahead to measure what I have at the shoulder, which is 7 inches. Now I'll place and I will rule a straight line at that point. From here, I'm going to be dividing what I have into 2 and I will fold. After folding it into 2, I'll mark the midpoint, come in by ½ inch. So here I'll just go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead to connect from that point to the half point at the armhole and to the upper part of my shoulder. Now I'll use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done marking that, I'll be marking my dart intake, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, and I'll go ahead to mark this all the way to the lower part of this pattern. Now I'll just go ahead and rule out a straight line and take it all the way down. So after this, I'll be marking a dart intake of 1 inch at both sides. For a plus size or a busty person, you're going to be using about 1.5 inches here. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way down and also connect it to the upper part and connect to the other side of the pattern. And after I'm done doing this, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done outlining, I'll be connecting my cup area, and to do that, I'll place my curve drew connecting from the bust down to the under bust, and I'm going to go ahead to repeat this at the other side. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead and mark my basic neckline of 3 inches. From there, I'm going to divide what I have at the rest of my armhole, but I'll be drawing out this neckline to serve as a guide. So I'll go ahead and divide the rest of my shoulder by 2, and I'll mark the midpoint. And I'll be taking a dart intake of 2 inches. And that 2 inches, I'll be replacing it. To replace it, I'll place or blend in my pattern and I'll mark that 2 inches. This is to make sure that the extra 2 inches that I'll be marking will meet up with the other side of the shoulder. Next, I'll connect this all the way down and also connect the other side. So here is my shoulder dart, and from here I'll just measure that 2 inches correctly and I'll reconnect it back to my armhole this way. So after I'm done connecting this, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern. So after I'm done connecting this, all these measurements, I will transfer it at the other side, but I'll be doing that off the camera. So after this is what I have by this side. I just recreated what I have on this side at the other side. Now I'll go ahead and mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll just pick a point here and take the dart. So I'll be marking a dart intake of 1 inch. So you can also go ahead to pick a point by just going up by 2 inches or 3 inches and measure. So after that, I replaced the dart intake and added 1 inch for my sewing allowance. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace it, and I'll add my sewing allowance of 1 inch. At the waistline, I'll be snatching my waistline directly. I'll take out 4 inches from it and divide what I have left, mark, and I'll add the dart intake that I took out and add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So here I will mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead to connect my pattern from the beginning to the lower part. So after that, I'll just go ahead and cut out this pattern, and we can go ahead to alter the rest of the dress. And after cutting that, I'll be opening it up this way, and after that, if you notice, I attach a little pattern on one side. So starting from this side, I'm going to divide what I have at the chest line or armhole into two, just like you're drawing a princess dart effect. And I'm going to connect it back to the dart lines. So I'll mark ½ inch on both sides and I will reconnect it to that line that I just drew out now. And after connecting it, I'll just go ahead and outline it. This is to help contour your bust at that side of the cup, because the sleeve of the dress is also going to start at that side. So I'll just go ahead and attach another pattern paper underneath. This is to draw out the sleeve at that point, and I used a gum to attach it. So to determine the sleeve length, you're going to actually measure the person you're making the dress for. You will measure from the front side of the armhole to the lower part of the chest line at the back. So whatever you have, that is what you'll be adding as an extension to the sleeve. So now the next thing is to start drawing out the cup from this side. So here is the midpoint of this pattern, and I'll start from the bust line and I'll start connecting. So from the shoulder point, you can come down by 3 inches or 4 inches, because what we have here is like a high off shoulder, and I'll just blend in my dart. So when you're cutting out this part, please go ahead to blend in your dart. It is very important before cutting it out. If not, the lines are not going to meet at all. So I'll just go ahead and blend in my pattern paper and I will reconnect. So after I'm done reconnecting now, I'll just go ahead to trace out this line. So I'll draw a straight line all the way down from that point. Now I'll take this ½ inch I have here and I'm going to extend it to the sleeve part of this dress. So at that point, what I have is ½ inch and I'm going to draw it all out. And now the next step you take is to measure this dart intake. ½ inch on both sides will give you 1 inch, and I'll be drawing a straight line at that point of 1 inch. After marking that 1 inch, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw out a straight line. So I'll leave that part of the sleeve to I draw out the cup at that side. So from here, I'll place my cuff drew and I'll be connecting it to the upper part of my bust this way. So after that here, I'll divide what I have between my armhole and the bust circumference and place my cuff drew and I'll connect to the side of my pattern. So now you're going to determine what you want on this side. So we have ½ inch on top and then 1 inch for the dart. So you can go ahead to use 2 inches or 1½ inch or 3. It just totally depends on what you want or the design you want to achieve. Sorry, the width of the sleeve that you want. So I'll be using 2 inches and I'll go ahead to reconnect this. And I'll just go ahead to take that 2 inches all the way down. So by the time I take out my dart intake and add these 2 inches, what I'll be having on my sleeve will be 2½ inches minus the dart. So if I add the dart, I'll be having a total of 3½, and I'll go ahead to rule a line. So coming over to this point, you have to blend in your dart to draw out the cup on this part. So from here also, I'm just going to use a free hand to draw out the neckline that I want. Next, I'll just go ahead and extend this about 2 or 3 inches up. Totally depends on where you want your necklines to stop. Now I'll just go ahead and reconnect, and I'll be taking this to the upper part this way and reconnect to the armhole of the dress. So this is what we have. So for this pattern, I actually used a bust dart, but when I was cutting it out initially, I forgot, so I added it later on. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the excess that I will be having at the sleeve part of this dress, and this is what I have here. So I'll also go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern. The next step I'm going to take is just to go ahead and work on the lower part. Here I'll measure 5 inches from my waistline and I'll come down and create a design, go up by 2 inches, and I'll go ahead to curve this and come down again by that same 2 inches. So this is just to create a design on your pattern or on your dress. So while doing this, make sure you blend in your dart, because if you don't blend it in, if you cut it without blending in your dart, when you open it, you notice that the design on the lower part won't be matching each other. You'll be having the problem of matching your fabric and cutting out the excess part of it. After that, I'll just go ahead and I will outline the rest of this pattern. So this is what I have after I'm done drafting. The next step is to go ahead and I will start cutting out this pattern. So when cutting this out, you have to be very careful at this part that you have your shoulder dart, so that you not cut out the part that is not meant to be cut out. And after cutting here, we'll be moving over to the other side of this pattern also. But before that, I'll go ahead and mark a bust dart of 1.5 inches on my pattern. So to get your bust dart is the difference between your front shoulder to waist and your back shoulder to waist line. So if you measure it, you notice that your shoulder to front waistline is actually longer than that of your back. And I also mark the bust dart at this part also. So after marking that, you'll be blending it in, and I'll just go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So at this point, you also need to be careful. So I'll just go ahead and cut out this dart that we have here. So after that, I'll place a piece of paper and attach gum underneath it. So you're going to be cutting this your cup together, because it's the part that connects to the sleeve. So you're going to be merging it up with the other side. So this is very important. So with this, you have this part as one, and you will now cut and connect this to the other side of the dart. So when you place your cup, this is what you'll be having. So I'll also go ahead and I will cut out the other sides of my pattern. So you also be blending in the dart. So this is what I have after cutting out. And after this, we'll be moving over to cut our back pattern. So for the back pattern, this dress actually has a zipper, but for this requested video, we are actually making it without a zipper. So I marked out all my basic measurements just like we did for the front part, and after that I went ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll connect. So sorry, my pattern paper is a bit rumpled. This is like the last I have at home. So I'll just go ahead and connect this all the way to the upper part, and also take this down. So this is my dart intake for the back, and I'll go ahead and mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance. Here, mark my waist circumference I used for the front, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. At the lower part of this pattern, I measured my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to also go ahead to add my sewing allowance. After that, I connected my pattern all the way down. So remember, our front pattern at the waist is 17 inches, so we took out a bust dart, so the shoulder to waist for the back is 15.5. So after that, I'll be measuring 2 inches for my lacing bar. So if you don't want to use a lacing bar for this dress, just like we have at the thumbnail, it is actually a zipper. You can go ahead and add 2 inches in front of your original pattern, or 1.5 inches for your zipper allowance. So after that, I'll just make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing bar, go down by ½ inch and reconnect, and also connect this part or outline the dart that I have on this part. So at the lower part of the dress, by the side, I will be coming up by or measuring 5 inches, just like we did from the front, for the front, coming down by 5 inches after your waistline. And I'll just go ahead and create that little design we also have at the lower part of the pattern. And after that, I'll just go ahead and cut out my pattern. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button and join us in our next video. Thanks.